A very good Saturday morning to you, and I hope I find you very well on what is a glorious, glorious summer Saturday morning here. Blue sky, beautiful white fluffy clouds, and hopefully it will carry on that way for a couple of days. Not been around for just over a week. More of that later. What I want to talk about today is an idea that I've had, and I'm sure other people, other watch collectors must do this, but I don't actually see kind of evidence of it, as it were. On YouTube, I don't see people making videos about it. Now, you've probably seen from the title, it's kind of self-explanatory, as it were, but I think it's actually quite a nice idea. A wristwatch ancestry, or a horological ancestry, and a wristwatch family tree. Now, this kind of idea just came to me this week while I was sat doing nothing in particular, but it became clear that I was actually already doing this, and hopefully it will be something that will catch on, and hopefully will progress through my son and maybe even my daughters, perhaps. So what I'm talking about, as I say, is fairly self-explanatory, which is having within your collection wristwatches that go back in generations. Now, people who are new to the channel won't have seen some of these pieces unless you've gone through all my back catalogue, and I know that's knocking on the door of 300 videos now, so it's actually quite a lot to actually have a look at. But a quick rundown. The first one is my grandfather's Andrew watch. It is an automatic movement, 17 jewels, gold case, 33 mil, tiny little thing. It looks like a lady's watch these days, but it's got a beautiful onion stroke pumpkin crown, as you can see there. It looks a bit tarnished these days, but then again, you know, this is probably a 1930s piece, I would have thought, and given its age, it's actually not in bad nick at all. It's got a lovely little face, beautiful fingers, lovely indices and numbers, and the thing still works. It's got that lovely tip, that red tip on the second hand there. I don't wear this. I keep this for memory's sake of my grandfather, obviously my father's father. So that is my Andrew watch. The next thing that obviously is an obvious one, of course, is the piece I inherited from my dad, which is his Rolex GMT Master 1 circa 1969 Pepsi bezel. Gorgeous, lovely in every way. There are not words enough for me to describe how I feel about this watch. It is a prized possession, and even though it does have a monetary value in the market, it is priceless to me. It is a beautiful piece. I had the plastic crystal cleaned a little while ago, so it looks as good as new now, and the bracelet I polished myself, so it looks absolutely gorgeous, and it's a lovely piece which I'm going to slap on my wrist today. It's the first time I've worn it for 2 months, I think, so it'll be going on my wrist and be worn proudly for the next week or so. The next piece, which you may or may have not seen the video about, I know I've had an inquiry this week regarding the video on this one, is my Seiko chronograph Pogue with that beautiful, gorgeous sunray yellow dial. Look at that. It is beautiful. The watch that nearly bankrupted me back in 1979. A lovely automatic Seiko movement in there. Absolutely glorious, and that beautiful bezel looking nearly as good as the day that I bought it. It means such a lot to me, and that was obviously my major purchase. It cost me the 79 of your finest English pounds. Absolutely glorious, absolutely wonderful, and I love it still. And recently, as you know, it went over to Holland for Guido to have a look at and get his opinion on, because I know he's a bit of a sucker for 1970s Seikos. Now, the final one in this, which is an obvious choice, of course, is the Hulk. my Rolex Hulk, which is by a long chalk the most expensive one that I have ever bought. I haven't got my Omega Seamaster Professional 300 back from the Menders as yet. That is the subject of ongoing issues, I've been told, and which it may have to go back to Omega for. But I will bring you up to speed on that at some point. There's enough information out there regarding this particular watch, including my videos and others, but that is obviously the fourth out of 5 watches that I believe are rightfully on my watch family tree. So what am I saying here? Well, what I'm kind of saying is I think it's quite nice within your collection, if you can, to have watches going through the generations. So I've got my father's watch, I've got my father's watch. I actually own 2 of my father's watches, to be honest with you. I own a Marvin medium automatic, which was a commemorative piece for the launch of a ship called the Flying Dutchman. That was my very first watch that went on my wrist. My dad gave that to me when I was about 8, I think, and that is now with my son. I then obviously, after his passing, I then came into ownership of his Rolex. I then obviously my first major purchase, my Seiko, and then obviously my Omega, which is not here, and my Rolex Hulk. So we're looking at 3 generations of watches. And I think that's actually quite a nice little thing to have in your collection. As I say, I'm not aware of anyone else who does this. I am sure there must be people out there who do. I know that TGV has, I think it's his grandfather's pocket watch. I'm sure that other people, maybe even Andy, for instance, will have something that belonged to his dad. I think it's quite a nice idea to not only pass on the watches that you've bought in your collection to your children, hoping that they will get the same joy and excitement and delight out of having these great little machines on their wrists that you and I do, but also to have this ongoing tradition of a lineage, if you like, a family lineage of watches that we as men of the families have bought throughout the past generation. You know, so my lineage of wristwatches goes back 70 years, 80 years, something like that. And it would be lovely to think that you know, that will continue into the future. I don't think my son just yet has got the same passion I have, and indeed you have, about wristwatches, but to some that passion arrives late. So we shall see what happens, and hopefully he will continue the trend, and then if he doesn't have children, hopefully he will pass them on to a new custodian who will look after them and continue that line. So let me know whether you've ever done anything like this, whether you do anything like this, whether this is a new idea to you and you think it's actually quite a nice idea. So I hope to hear from you on that one, because I do think it's actually quite a fresh idea. I've not seen many videos about this. As I say, I'm quite open to the fact that people do it. I'm just not aware. So, as always, comments, queries, replies, answers to this down below as always. Now, as far as me not being around, one, I've actually not been well at all, and unlike some others who like to make a video showing that they're in their sick bed awaiting all your good wishes, it's kind of not my bag, and I will try, you know, do my best to get well as soon as possible so I can be back doing this. But secondly, to be perfectly frank, I'm getting a little bit disenchanted with YouTube, the watch world, the Facebook thing. I'm going to close down all my accounts on Facebook because the bitchiness and the snobbiness is just kind of getting out of hand there. It's actually not for me, so I'm actually going to close all that kind of thing down. I will still keep my Twitter account open as I've said to you before, my Twitter account generally is my news feed, sports feed, and whatever else feed. So that will still be there. My YouTube channel will not be closed down, but it will quite possibly not be receiving any new videos for a while. This is becoming a little bit of a trial now, and I think because it's a bit of a trial, I'm perhaps not doing my best stuff, as it were, because there isn't the motivation to actually put stuff out there, and I would much rather not put stuff out there rather than to put filler out there. So that's it for this one, people, and that could be it for quite a while. So thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure a video will pop up now and again. Obviously, you've noticed over the last month or so I've only been doing about one a week. That kind of reflects how I'm feeling about this right now. So I shall speak to you anon. Thanks a lot for your support. Bye bye.